So this week in the garden, I'm talking about hardening off our indoor grown plant seedlings. Now, we get all of our seedlings started several weeks before our last frost date here under our seed starting station, which is just basically a few different shop lights hanging from a PVC apparatus that I built several years ago. Now, our shop lights are really simple. They're just, I think, about 5,000 lumen daylight bulbs, and those do really well at getting our seedlings started and growing. But the issue with those is that it's only so much light, and they got to get out into the garden under the real sun. But we can't just take these right from our seed starting station and throw them right out into the sun. Otherwise, they're just going to get really burnt up because that sunlight is a lot more extreme than these bulbs are. So we've got to kind of take it easy on them and kind of give them just a little bit of an adjustment to that new light. So the process of getting these hardened off to be in the sunlight full time is going to take a few days. And what we're going to do is take these seedlings from indoors under the shop lights on day one. We're just going to put them in a nice shady spot outdoors. Now, there's still a lot of light that's in this shade, especially on a nice sunny day like we've got today. So they are getting just a little bit more light than what's coming off of those shop lights. And so a good shady day to get them started off on day one is a great way to get them started. Now, one of the things you want to consider when hardening off your plants is the time of day that you are bringing your plants out. I prefer to do mine earlier in the day, but you might not have that time available to do so, and you only have mid or late day to do that. Just consider that the intensity of the sun is just going to be a little bit more during those midday times, and you'll want to kind of cut back the time that you're having them outside. And also, one of the things you can do in order to help with timing is to use some of those spaces in your garden that eventually turn to shade by using some walls or different things in your garden that will eventually shade out the plants. Now, you just have to know your garden spaces in order to know where that's going to happen. But it's a good way to make sure that in case you kind of forget about it for a minute, you're not leaving them out in the intense sun for too long. And also, you want to consider the fact that these plants, again, have been growing indoors, and it's also warmer indoors than it is at nighttime. So over those first day or two that we're leaving them in the shade, and these first few days that we're bringing them into the sun, we're also taking them back indoors in order to also eventually acclimate them to being outdoors overnight as well. So after having them in the shade for a couple of days, we're bringing them into the sun for those first couple of days for just an hour or so is what I do. And then I'll move them back into the shade for just a little bit, and then I'll bring them indoors. And then we'll gradually each day increase the time that we're allowing them to be in the sun. And then I would say maybe day 5, 6, or so, then we're going to start gradually allowing them to stay outdoors during the evening just a little bit longer. And then about 7 to 10 days of doing this and increasing our time, we're going to have plants that are ready to be not only left outdoors all day long, but also all night long as well too. And once they've done and gone through all of that process, they're going to be ready to plant out into your garden. A couple of other things to consider while you're hardening off your indoor plant seedlings is the overall weather conditions in your area. Now for me and my forecast, we've got full sun ahead of us, and I want to make sure that I'm really gradually bringing them out into that sunlight in order to ensure the best results. But for you, you might have some cloudy or overcast conditions in your forecast. So if that's the case, then you can
Horrible.
increase
What
that
happened to the
time
sun?
just a bit. Now, if I'm going to have them out for just an hour in the full sun, I might do 2 hours in some really overcast or filtered sunlight through those clouds. And you want to consider the wind as well too. You could have just a nice moderately windy day, which would be really great for your plant starts because that'll just help the stems and the roots get nice and strong. But if it's going to be really windy out, you might want to prepare for those conditions as well too, because you don't want your plants just getting whipped all over the place, because like having them out in the sun just a little too long, that's going to maybe cause some damage or stunt the growth of your plant starts. Now, hopefully you've got enough good information here to help you get your indoor plant starts hardened off really well. But this is something that really you're going to have to gain some experience on, and knowing not just your area, but the temperament of your different plants that you're growing. And hopefully you'll get them out into the garden nice and healthy and nice and strong. So that'll be our In the Garden for this week. We'll see you all in the garden this next Saturday.